Jackson trying to escape and run for it, and he's got it more. Lamar Jackson down the sideline. Will they give it to him? They will. Touchdown, Baltimore.
And with 1:17 left to play on Wild Card Weekend, the Hayes in the barn.
Oh my God! I wish you guys could. I wish we had a camera in here so you could see what we're doing. We're just a bunch of clowns in here.
How much fun is that?
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Tuesday, March 30th, getting near the end of March here. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz on what is actually a pre-recorded Thursday night episode. Cracking a couple of Vizzies, having ourselves a nice time here as we round out this month of March. Tonight doing another Big Boards episode. How you doing, bud?
Doing all right. Just burned the hell out of my mouth. And I'm using this Vizzy to try and wash down my good old burnt taste buds and get back to normal. But, yeah, free agency at this point is over. The Ravens have traded for Allen Robinson for the second consecutive week. And things are good. So now we can just ignore the wide receiver position and get onto the safeties, a position the Ravens could use.
Yeah, huge news that was that came across the flyer. And it's going to now absolutely just free us from the wide receiver discussion that has not gotten, completely tired and exhausting for people like us that are kind of on the front lines of all this stuff. No, of course, that did not happen. We know it didn't happen. We're sitting here and making predictions 4 or 5 days out, whatever it is. We know they didn't trade for Allen Robinson. We know that Sammy Watkins might well be a Raven by the time this thing is posted. So that's that. But tonight, taking a look at safeties on the Beatdown Big Board series. We've had some fun with this thing so far. We started out with eggs. We've since looked at tight end, offensive line. How have you been enjoying this series so far, bud?
It's been fun. Been a good way when we come on here and do the kind of badges, the MLB The Show Madden type badge things and try and put players into those gloves. And it's starting to give me, I feel like trying to go through the entire positions as a whole in a week is giving me a good general feel for the entire draft class as a whole, getting pretty deep into some of the middle round guys and things. But I would say that at this point, I'm still, there's guys I'm going back and looking at that we've already discussed, and a lot of these things aren't definitive yet. But like I said, I think it's a good way to look at the positions as a whole and try and maybe understand the value of each position headed into the draft class and where some positions might go early, some positions might, have some more fat that can be afforded later on in the draft, and that's where you start to talk about those market inefficiencies and market value and things like that apply to free agency, apply to the draft, and roster construction as a whole. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have too. I think as somebody who enjoys the draft, but kind of always sort of seem to focus more on like the skill positions and like the fun guys that you hope the Ravens are going to draft, but they like seemingly never do. Getting some context on like the other spots, I think has been pretty good for me, and also you sharing some of the knowledge that you have and the info that you have as to how to scout these guys has been very educational for me. I hope it has been educational for the listener base. I think as far as the positions that we've done so far, I think edge, the vote wound up being for Azeez Ojulari and Jalen Phillips, who are going to be the top options there entering the bracket whenever this thing does wrap up. And then I think at tight end it wound up being pretty chalk, Brevin Jordan and Pat Freiermuth. I might have to go back and check that, but I think those were the two that we have so far, and the O-line one is still kind of running.
That's where we are, my friend.
Awesome. Well, I guess without further ado, we can jump into the safeties. How does that sound?
Let's do it. So the things that you're looking for when you're looking at a safety, 3-level impact, being able to make plays, intermediate passing game and short underneath passing game, and making plays in the flats, as well as the run game, of course. And then, of course, deep. FBI always applies the football intelligence, the instincts, play speed,
So
range.
It's not the acclaimed Rick Dalton TV show from 1969.
Oh, it's Rick Dalton, baby.
I got my FBI on tonight. That's
Hell yeah.
the pointing meme, actually.
Where is it? Oh,
No,
I
what
thought
he
you
does-
had one
what-
in here. I thought you were pointing to.
No,
one.
when
I was
he
like,
does
what?
when he does the pointing meme, that's him watching himself
Yes.
on FBI.
Yes. Classic one. just get the old flamethrower out at the end of this episode.
Sorry to completely derail you there, but whenever I hear FBI now, I think of him saying, "Got my FBI."
Cracks open
doing
the
the
six-pack.
pointing. Yeah, it's classic.
Classic. But range, the word that everybody loves to use, and range is a word that I feel like gets misconstrued a little bit.
It's used a lot.
It is, and it's like range. How fat is it's like kind of like just thinking of if a guy has a 40 time, but
Not to spoil anything, but we're going to be discussing that term at one point here.
Yeah, of course. And range to me has to do with the FBI part as well, with the instincts, with the intelligence of knowing, being able to recognize where a route is going or where a route concept is going or where a read is starting to look like it's going, and having the wherewithal to bait it a little bit and start to move and then know when you can really unload and play completely full speed. And it's tough at safety because you're, especially if you're a guy who plays in the post, who plays single high or deep, whatever you want to call it, you are the last line of defense. You can't fully unload as often as people think that you can, because if you miss an angle, it's a house call a lot of times. If a corner can't get to somewhere, there's a blown coverage, and you unload that range, that R word, all the way to the sideline, and a guy just gives you a little slip and gets behind you, then it's gone. So it's tough to really see. There's not a ton of opportunities always where you get to see that range, but it comes up in pursuit. And guys, I tweeted earlier, guys who run 4.5, 4.6, a lot of them are so smart that it's the intelligence that's making them look like they play at 4.4, 4.3, because they know where the play is going, they're confident, and they feel I am comfortable unleashing my range. No matter if it's 4.4 or 4.5, realistically over a 20-yard period, that's a half a step.
Because like when you're actually choosing to make that run and make that play on the ball, it's like a shorter burst, right? It's not even like 40 yards in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
it's just
maybe
like,
at the most 20 yards. It's typically from like middle of the field to the numbers, or from hash to hash, or maybe hash to numbers, and that would be a long one. So and I think Ravens fans always love that word range. Ed Reed comes to mind, the rangiest
it's
of all
because
time.
the offseason after he left, or maybe the two off seasons after he left, Ozzie was really kind of key in hitting that they needed to get a rangy free safety. I think Ravens fans are still living off of Ozzie using that term to describe what they were missing in Ed Reed's absence.
Absolutely, and it's tough. A lot of it has to do with being able to backpedal smoothly and open your hips and flip your hips and run. And a lot of times we're starting to talk about a lot of safeties now. There's guys that are 6'1", 6'2", and pardon me to Jalen Ramsey, but guys who are 6'2" aren't going to be able to turn and run the way the guys who are 5'11" are. It's a little bit different, just mechanically that way. But other factors, of course, being able to blitz. Safeties, you need to look at them in a special teams value, especially if you're looking at mid-round guys. They're playing special teams. They're on kick coverage. They're covering punts. They're doing it all. You need to have great special teams value. That's where you want to see guys that are consistent tacklers, that work through blocks well, contact, all that stuff, that translate just general effort and hustle. Zone coverage, of course, guys being able to be instinctual, and it's always tough. We don't know what the coverages are, but you can get a feel for it. And if guys are able to pass off zone coverage and you see them communicating well and all those things, tackling, of course, and that can qualify as guys who are hitters versus guys who are kind of the ankle nipping types and all that good stuff. Communication, it's tough, but you can see when guys are talking when you're watching. Physicality overall, guys that can take on blocks, guys that will stand up a running back or make plays at the goal line or stand up to an offensive lineman, be able to get off of them. Ball skills and tracking, the fun one. Do guys bring the ball down when they go for it? Are they able to punch and time punches well and get to the catch point well and do all those things? That ties into range and FBI as well. And then, of course, man coverage, which some guys aren't really asked to do it all, and some guys are asked to do pretty much exclusively in college. A lot of those spread schemes, a lot of shotgun, sideline RPO attacks where guys are playing a ton of man, and some guys aren't at all. Elijah Molden, a guy who played a ton of zone. And we're going to be looking at slot corners here as well. And they, you would like slot corners to be able to play like a safety in many instances. So those are all things that you're trying to look at.
Is there a reason why, and this is a little random, and forgive me if you're not following my train of thought, but is there a reason why, and it could even just be like misfortune, rub of the green, whatever you want to call it, there hasn't been that elite, rangy, free safety prospect since Earl Thomas in 2010? Or the guy that has panned out
really
at least.
Rare. I think it's just a really rare skill set to...
Maybe it's the fact that you go from Ed Reed in, 2002, and then he basically transitions directly to Earl Thomas in the 2010s, and we still haven't seen that next guy.
It's a rare trade, and that's why a guy that was really intriguing to me was Grant Delpit, because that big all caps R range.
People talked about Malik Hooker like that a little bit too.
Malik Hooker too. He definitely showed that at OSU. But guys that are confident playing on the back end at full speed, they're really, 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 really smart defenders. And I think the combination of the twitched up athleticism with the confidence and the intelligence on the back end is just a really rare blend. And I think that defenses kind of have shifted away from isolating a guy deep as much in that sense. And I think we see, Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates on the Bengals, guys that do have that, but just really not that all-out kind of give to commit to range and be in a deadpan sprint from hash to hash or hash to numbers and things like that. I think that offenses have kind of steered away from it, from some of those deeper, 50-50 lob it up balls. So I think guys might not get as many opportunities, but it's a rare trait to have the true elite range, and that's why I was so surprised Grant Delpit wasn't higher last year, and we haven't gotten to see what he's able to do on an NFL field yet because of his injury last year, and who knows how that'll affect him and the rest of his career. But that was something I saw at LSU from Delpit, and it's not there are many draft class. I would say 2 out of 3 draft classes don't have a guy that has, the bright, shiny range that does that, and then those guys sometimes don't translate as well. So I think it's just rare. It also goes into scheme fit and trusting those guys and trusting rookies to go out there and make those kinds of plays. I mean, the NFL game has changed a lot in the last 5 years. Feels like there's been a big flip on its head with the RPO game being integrated, the mobile quarterbacks, and having safeties deep hasn't been as ideal as split safety stuff, and we're seeing a lot more split safety responses to the RPO games of the world to be able to cut those down and keep 2 guys over top. And trend that the Ravens saw. The Ravens saw a lot more too high defense against Lamar Jackson last year, which people would have thought was a little crazy, but it definitely worked at times. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of things, but it is a really rare trait to have.
Feels like another
Eric Berry, another guy who had it.
Yeah, good point. It does also kind of feel like to me one sort of trait, whatever you want to call it, that's hard to scout with a guy, but sometimes you just know it when you see it, and sometimes you totally miss it, and they come to the NFL is just kind of that playmaking ability. I feel like this is more prevalent in safeties than in pretty much any other position, where you got a guy like an Ed Reed or an Earl Thomas or an Eric Berry, for an example, or even some other guys that are just kind of always in the right place at the right time. Is that another thing that you think is tangibly scouted pretty easily, or is that just another kind of shit, you either got it or you don't, and we're going to find out the hard way?
I think it's a kind of easy thing to scout. I think it really jumps off on tape, and it usually ends up in pass breakups and stats. I think that's one of the things where kind of skill and the ability to do so translates, unless guys are being avoided. And that's another area of it. A guy like Trevon Moehrig will get to, but doesn't get thrown at a lot, especially deep. And a guy that, you don't really, that's why I think it can be tough at times, because sometimes there'll be games where guys just don't ever get to use that. They're not asked to. They never get the ball thrown. The ball has to go there, and there has to be a kind of perfect storm to be able to show off that range in many ways. But when you see a guy make a break, when you see a quarterback confidently throw a ball that you think at the time it's thrown will be a completion for a deep pass, and the safety just makes a play on it that you didn't expect, that is a definition of range. When guys make plays you don't expect in coverage on the back end, that is range.
So it's kind of almost more intelligence than just pure athleticism.
I think it's confidence and intelligence, and I think a lot of it is film study as well, and that ties into the confidence of knowing that there's not something being sneaked out the back door on you, that you're seeing it, you can set up for it and go make that break. And it feels like, to me, the confidence aspect of it is what allows it to really unleash. And when guys know that the ball's going there, you're not making a mistake, you're not blowing the coverage, and you're going to get a quarterback. Having vision all the way back to the quarterback is another important part of it. And being able to time your burst with the quarterback starting to go into their throwing motion and knowing that's where the ball is going, because you are the last line of defense. So I think it takes big cojones to have range. Even if you are capable of it, you might not see guys that really commit to it all the time.
I think the peak of it is the Ed Reed story where they play the Colts in the regular season. He purposefully misplays a coverage, is at least how he tells it, and then they see the Colts again, I believe, in the playoffs maybe, and he makes Peyton Manning believe that he takes the bait again, but in fact he was actually turning around kind of backpedaling and made his way all the way up to grab the interception. That's kind of always a fun story that sort of details all the nuances of going into playing in the NFL, in that case safety, where like a guy, and this is obviously Ed Reed on a completely different level, but he's like at the point where he's like, you know what, like I'm going to let Peyton Manning get this 40 yards on me right now because A, he has the foresight to know that they might be meeting them later in the season, and B, he has the kind of knowledge to know that Peyton, as smart as he is going to think that he's going to take the cheese on him however many weeks later that is and kind of biting him. I always think that's kind of a really fascinating story. I'm not totally sure the veracity of it, to be honest. It might be a little embellished at this point, but it's still something that always kind of makes me smile.
Of course. That was a great story. That Tom Brady and Bill Belichick talking about Ed Reed so glowingly and all those aspects. And
I'll see if I can put that in here post-production.
Hell yeah.
Because that's good.
That would be a good one for sure. But also, I mean, taking good angles is part of it too. If you're able to do football geometry and make an outstanding break, you have to angle it well and time it well and take a good angle and all those different things. So safety play, and how often do safeties get to go make a play on the ball? Maybe 2 times a game deep. It's just kind of rare and interesting, and safety is a peculiar position. A lot of it is problem solving and requires a lot of IQ. And again, you are the last line of defense if you're a single high guy. So it's a lot.
It definitely is. So without further ado, do you want to jump into the players?
Let's do it.
So the first category I touched on this a little bit earlier, funny enough, is the Rangers. And that is kind of your traditional ball-hawking free safety. I could have just said ball hawk, but I feel like that's kind of reserved for one player. So the Rangers is your kind of rangy free safety type.
Yeah, the guys that stick out overall in that aspect are Javon Merrig, definitely a guy that,
So here's first thing we got to clear up. Is it Javon Merrig or Javon Merrig - Woodard? Because it feels like he's a hyphen boy.
I don't think he is a hyphen boy. I didn't even realize that.
When I Googled him,
I don't think on his jersey. They might not have had names on their jerseys. Might have just been, what is he, 7? I think.
I believe so.
I don't think I ever see it there. I feel like I did used to see that. Maybe he's kind of.
He might have changed it like Nickel Roby did to Nickel Roby Coleman.
Right.
But yeah, there you go.
I don't really recall that. Let's give him the hyphen.
Yeah, we love our hyphen kings.
We're big hyphen guys.
Yeah.
So we'll give him the hyphen for sure. But Murray, I don't think I got to watch enough of all of these guys. I was a little busy this week, so I made sure to watch at least 2 games for everybody. But Murray, the things that I had written down overall were that he plays conservatively most of the time in terms of athleticism. He's always under control, and that's particularly towards coverage, but even in the run game a little bit. And you every now and again get to see him unleash that speed. And it might be slipping a block or when he diagnoses a run. I don't love him as a run defender overall. I think he has a lot of. I don't see maximum effort there all the time.
There's also some over pursuit too, which is kind of the distant cousin of that, but sort of going the other way.
Sure, and I didn't see enough of it, but when he felt it was time or when he was in man coverage, you saw some real athletic ability, some real range. He was able to really thwart a lot of targets against Oklahoma. From what I saw, he plays with length too. I see listed as 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in that department. I don't think he's above 6'2", but he's got some length to him.
I got that off Washington's website, so
right,
probably 6'1".
No, that's what I haven't seen his pro day yet. I don't think TCU's had their pro day, and everywhere I see is either 6'1" or 6'2". So I'm imagining he's 6'1.5", which is tall. And overall, you see him flowing over top really smoothly. One of my favorite things that he does, he was kind of asked to play a lot of man. He was asked to take the number 3 or the inside guys a lot from what I saw. It's something he did really well, and even in times when he kind of was slow to transition and guys might have had a head of steam, he really is able to cut off receivers that are booking it. He's really physical in coverage deep, but he's not grabby. He has this really interesting way of cutting off receivers and putting hands on them, but you never think, oh, that was a PI. And he never got called for any I think I watched 3 games of him. You never saw a PI on him, but always there was 2 instances where it looked like, that receiver is booking and he is not in his back pedal yet, and he just kind of squares up, gets some hands on them really passively, but squares up to them like a basketball defender, protecting the basket, gets really square and blocks them off. That I liked a lot. But range, you saw him making plays sideline to to boundary a couple of times. And overall, I think he is the most consistent guy that has the length, has the range, and plays under control that you can really trust to be that post player. I think he's kind of been the consensus guy, and I don't see anything different there. He didn't get targeted a ton in that Oklahoma game. He kind of did, which was surprising, but it was two good teams going at it, or I guess two good programs going at it. TCU wasn't great offensively, but I was impressed with Moehrig. I don't love him as like I don't know, even really a first-round player, but then again, he fits the mold of Bates and Simmons, of those taller, longer guys that, make tackles.
I feel like safeties also randomly go in the first round a lot. You had the dude go to the Steelers,
Edmonds,
and then you had the other Maryland guy went to the Packers
Darnell
that one
Savage.
year. Yep, yeah, exactly. So it definitely happens.
Right, and I think that he's a safe player. I think that he understands what's being thrown at him. He looks bored sometimes because there's a lot of college teams run the same kind of spread attack. It's pretty consistent. They have a lot of, quirky little runs that go off of it and counters and some fun things like that. But these spread teams, especially in the Big 12, a lot of smash concepts and a lot of kind of corners or posts and things like that. And he kind of just was like, okay, like I see what's coming. And he ended up being a match man kind of guy a lot. It wasn't, cover one where he kind of is just really lurking in the middle of the field. And that's why I'm curious to see what he could do with more cover one. But seemed to really understand what was going on. You rarely see him out of place, and a very safe, free safety type that has the size to go make plays. But again, I just didn't see him really loving playing in the box like that. I didn't see, there was I think there was 2 run plays where he was kind of flowing split safety, and he had the edge and had an alley and ran and made the play. And I think he's a fine tackler, but didn't love him. I don't see him as like a thumper at all or a hitter really. Just a solid player all around.
Yeah, fluidity is the word that I wrote down for him that really stands out for me. Just kind of fluid. Everything seems to be done with a purpose. You mentioned him being bored. I kind of noticed that. I did watch that Oklahoma game and I think 2 others. I also wrote down is often communicating both pre-snap and even middle of the play, which I do like.
Definite strong communication. The football intelligence is there. The speed is good, not great in pursuit. I don't see him as I'm not going to put him on an all hustle list. I didn't see him as that type of player, but as a rat player, as someone playing that middle of the field, in between the linebackers kind of area, really great breaks on the ball, great length, undercuts extremely well, broke up a ton of passes from what I saw. I didn't look at his stats all the way through, but I'm sure he had, probably 6, 8, 10 pass breakups each of the last 2 years. And yeah, it's smooth transitions, a clean back pedal. But again, the things that stuck out were high intelligence, length, and plays conservatively a lot. And he's always under control is what that means. And he's always able to go find something and go through secondary reads and pass off a little bit. But solid player all around, and a guy that I think will probably play a lot as a rookie.
Cool. Who's next?
The next guy was Richie Grant, who is a weird evaluation, and the games that I watched were like Tulsa and some other teams of that nature, and teams that have pretty gimmicky offenses in terms of the quick passing, so it was kind of tough. But in that Tulsa game, saw him run immediately, number to hash, far right number to left hash. Hashes are wide in college, and pick off a ball in the first quarter, and doesn't see any balls thrown that way again. It was a little bit of a lollipop, but definitely he was really freaking far away from it. Senior Bowl, holy crap, was the best man coverage defender at the Senior Bowl. His teammate Aaron Robinson, who's maybe a nickel type, maybe an outside type, kind of in between, and who was the other one? I can't recall off the top of my head. Keith Taylor from Washington. Those 3 were making a ton of plays in man coverage throughout the Senior Bowl consistently, but Richie Grant being the safety, outstanding in man coverage. Had written down for him that he comes in too hot in run support and gave up a lot of bad angles, but he definitely comes in hot. I wrote down that he wants to be a hitter, but he's not. He wants to be a thumper, but he doesn't really lay people out. He can tackle tight ends pretty consistently. I think he matches up with tight ends pretty well. He's very willing in the run game, extremely willing, especially when he's played in the box. And he plays the ball in the air really well. He tracks the ball really well, has good ball skills. So man coverage, some definite range on the back end, and gives up some bad angles in the run game, but kind of a weird evaluation. Tough to kind of slot him.
Guy that I wrote down just seems to do everything pretty well. Good athlete who can cover and hit, doesn't seem to get lost or bowled over very often. According to some research, he started more as a cover first guy and has moved somewhat closer to the line as he's gotten older. He's been at UCF for a couple of years at this point.
Yeah, he could have come out last year and I think been a mid-round pick. So he was definitely another interesting player. And then the player that people love to talk about and that is interesting that I didn't get to watch enough of, but I've been keeping tabs on him over the years, is Andre Cisco out of Syracuse. He has 13 interceptions and 14 pass breakups.
And also the hit single, the thong song too. So very big.
But he's got the freaking range. Holy shit, he's got the range. He flies. He can move. You see it. He was asked to be deep, and everybody loves to talk about being a gambler and all these different things. Syracuse just had a weird leaky defense at times, but he hits. He's a thumper and he has range. Gave up some blown coverages everybody likes to put, but again, it's just tough to understand exactly who is supposed to take who, and there's a lot of pointing after plays and things, but in terms of traits, hell yeah, but he did have a lower body injury in September. He collided with a teammate and has been out. So I don't know if we're going to get testing on him. I haven't really read up into that. But he has high-end traits and is a deep safety and has explosive range. He's also, the smallest I saw listed was about 206, 205, and he's at least 6 feet tall. So if he's about 6'1", maybe 210, to move like he moved was definitely really impressive and made plays on all three levels for sure against the run, in the underneath pass game, in the middle of the field as a intermediate rat guy, and then deep for sure. And he had a lot of picks, a lot of them. It's just weird. Like, picks are weird with safeties because so many of them are guy falling down on a route or like a just like drop.
You get a lot of those college football plays too, where like a quarterback just hawks it up and like there's nobody within 20 feet of the guy. That happens both with receivers just being on their own and with DBs just getting interceptions. It's a weird sport.
So he definitely had a few of those from what I saw, but made undercut really well and baited some throws and things. But I think that the upside is definitely there. It's just that leg injury is tough to know what you're going to get. And that's where teams will have to do proper sort of, medical background checks and see if he's good to go and things like that. But definitely an explosive athlete with tons of range and loves to hit. So I could, obviously see him being a mid-round steal. Everybody loves to talk about him that I've seen and heard of because he had the prolific, I think he averaged like over a pass breakup a game and nearly an interception a game or something at one point. So had incredible production as a freshman and then didn't get to see him this year. So he's the joker. He's the wild card of this class.
Does he really look like a guy with a plan?
The man with the plan?
He's like a dog chasing cars, He wouldn't know what to do with one if he caught it. He just does things.
Oh, he knows what to do. He knows what to do. He does things. But
you're just launching me into another territory here.
There we go. Other than that, I'm looking down the list here. I think that does it in terms of the guys that I'm really looking at range from. Sean Davis out of Florida, a little bit.
Yet another Sean Davis at safety. What are we doing here?
Another one. He's got some range to him. Makes plays. Senior Bowl, okay. I've watched him quite a bit for SIS for games that I'd worked on and things, and I feel like he's a guy that's going to stick around in the NFL for a while. Rotational, has a little range, can play some too high, definite special teams contributor, but a good professional.
Cool. Is that all you got for Rangers?
That's what I got for the Rangers.
The next one is the very creatively titled Big Hitters.
Big Hitters. I think Hamza Nasildeen is big boy, 6'4", 215. James Wiggins, a guy that I love, but there's a lot of weird injury guys in this class. James Wiggins is trying to think of the right euphemism. He hits above his weight class, I guess. I don't know exactly how to describe it.
I think that's a perfect description.
Looks really thin and kind of lanky and slender, but boy,
he's a scrapper.
He fucks shit up. He is a tank.
FSU. Shout out to Daniel Ricciardo. Fuck shit up.
Daniel Ricciardo, baby.
It's just because I'm so good looking, right?
It's hard not to like him. It's really hard not to like him.
Okay.
I like Ricardo a lot.
Danny Rick. Okay.
This Sunday.
Oh, we're watching.
It's on. But yeah, James Wiggins, he was on Bruce Feldman's freak list, the 40 biggest freaks in college football that comes out every year. He supposedly squats 650 and ran a 4.4 or 4.3 and all these things. Cincinnati asked a lot of their safeties, of him and Derek Forrest, to really be guys that can figure it out and process, and had a lot of responsibility to be the problem solvers of their defense. And he plays really, 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 really perfectly when plays are in front of him. And he clicks and closes, makes great plays on balls, and punishes running backs, punishes tight ends, punishes slot receivers. Click and close guy, good ball production and things like that as well. But he had like a ACL tear at the start of the 2019 season and then re-aggravated it. And I think he came back after I think he played in I think he tore his ACL 3 days before their opener in 2019 against UCLA, and then ended up playing in the bowl game a couple months later, obviously, and then re-aggravated it ahead of this year. And I think he only played in 2 games this year. But as a guy that can be a 2-high safety and keep things in front of him, and I think he's fine to be single high rotationally, but plays that are kept in front of him, cutting to out routes and the flats and things like that, he is a force to be reckoned with. But another guy with a definite injury question mark that he didn't look as explosive. No one threw at him in the limited action he had this past year. No one threw at him. But really smart, freak athletically, tons of leadership. Everyone speaks really highly of him, and I'm not surprised to see him be a really solid starting safety.
Cool. Anyone else in big hitters?
Hufanga out of USC lays the wood. He is a box type for sure. For sure. He is kind of like a Mark Barron type, big box, dime, rotational kind of guy, a little clunky. Caden Stearns, I think, can bring some noise a little bit. He is kind of a weird, brings the boom in the pass game, but not in the run game guy. Hitters, who else do we have? Javon Holland can bring a little noise, I think.
Yeah, he's a guy that I did see. Yeah, he was an interesting one. I thought, maybe like a slot tweener type. We're going to talk about those in another category, but he definitely brought the wood on a couple of hits that I saw.
Yeah, he can hit a bit. And then Joshua Bledsoe out of Missouri, a guy that it felt like Missouri wanted to put over top early on, and he was like, fine, okay, not great in his career. And then they transitioned him into a way more versatile role. And he can bring some juice. He can tangle with some offensive linemen a little bit and set the edge kind of a little bit and make some plays. Brought a little boom, but I would say Nasildine probably and Wiggins are probably my 2 favorite hitters. Cisco again brings the wood. Funny enough, like our Darius Washington, the Mighty Mouse out of TCU, Morig's running mate. He could hit, but there was other times like when I watched the Texas game and. Texas's running back, whose name's escaping my mind, he's a 5-star kid that's probably going to be a high draft pick, and he just got big boyed by him. Washington's all of 5'8", 100 and maybe 80 pounds at most. Yeah, those are the guys that brought some wood. Morig he's like a low shot type. I wouldn't call him a hitter. Richie Grant, I wanted him to be a hitter, but he wasn't. Like he tackled and put his head down and stuck his nose into messes, but I never really saw like a real hit.
Okay.
Those are the thumpers a little bit.
Cool. Last one I had was we talked about before getting going here, obviously the fact that we're doing safeties, but there's also kind of those tweeners, those slot types, guys that are kind of just doing it all. The chess piece of the modern NFL defense is sort of the way that I've conceptualized it. I wrote down the traffic cops for that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. They're the guys that are keeping things on lockdown over the middle of the field and might not need to be the fastest. But the first one is a definite my guy. One of the guys that I've been super high on for a long time is Elijah Molden. I fucking love his game. Absolutely love Elijah Molden. He plays with that twitchiness, with that kind of like when you say twitchy, sometimes you think of these really frenetic players where there's a lot of lost motion and kind of a looseness or like a wasted motion more so. But he is so efficient. He has such strong change of direction. But like he'll dip shoulder on a blitz to an offensive tackle. He will hunt down jet sweeps and running backs and all kinds of things. He's like an ankle nipper, but like a really fucking good one. And he'll lay wood if you're not looking. He's
the Gruden word for Earl Thomas was the road runner, and that's kind of a word that came to mind here for me.
Definitely see that. Instinctive as hell. Amazing zone defender in those curl zones. By the hash, by the numbers. Reads quarterbacks really well. Undercuts passes really well. Punches the ball out really well. Not sure on size for him. If he comes in at the Draft Network has him at 5'10", 190. That'd be perfect. That's plenty of size for his kind of game. If he's a little smaller, you maybe have a little bit of concerns, but I didn't have any concerns in terms of him being able to sift through traffic and make plays. He's not super fast. Wasn't asked to be in man coverage a lot, but my oh my, he's just fun to watch, man. Just fun to watch.
Cool. Yeah, I really liked him too. I'm glad you used the word twitchy because I wrote down the right combination of twitchy and rangy, or basically what you would call both quick and fast. It seemed like he was just kind of everywhere.
It's hard not to compare him to Honey Badger a little bit.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like that kind of exact type of player. And like I wrote, seems to jump out of his shoes at times and seems like a guy who would blow up the combine if it were on this year.
Maybe. But he just has that kind of pound for pound, again, hits above his weight class.
Plays the ball by hook and by crook in every game I watched. I also wrote down.
He's making plays. He's making plays on the ball over the middle of the field. If you are a zone-heavy team and you need someone that you can kind of stick in and be that between the hashes, between the numbers, kind of hawk, he is perfect. And I think he only played like 90 snaps in safety alignments. Like he was really just a nickel. But I'm not surprised to see him be a really intelligent football player that you can stick in some too high and do some funky things with. But that definitely is a little bit of a projection for sure.
So if he's the pick, is he going to be on the field with both Elliott and Clark at the same time a lot of the time, you think?
Yeah, because I think you want to put him in the nickel. And I think you want him in the slot, whereas you didn't see Clark really is only ever put on tight ends in the slot and running backs. And then Elliott's either like doing some crazy stuff in the box where he's like probably blitzing, or he's deep, it feels like most of the time.
It feels like the Ravens have a Travis Kelce problem. Would he help solve that? And it's not an indictment on him if he can't. I'm just kind of curious because like I fucking hate Travis Kelce.
He's a lot smaller than Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
He's a lot smaller than Travis Kelce.
Say you stick him and like a linebacker on him.
Yeah, I mean you can combo coverage Kelce, but if the Ravens want to keep blitzing and trying to cover Travis Kelce one-on-one, I mean, Jimmy Smith fucking shut him down when didn't have a catch on him, had a couple nice little pass breakups and things. Then we saw, I guess, Levante David really erased him in the Super Bowl. I don't think he kind of has the size for that. I would go with maybe a Javon Holland or someone of that nature a little bit more so. Another guy that is really only played boundary corner, but is weird, is Afeto Melifonwu. He's really a corner, but I don't know. He's got some size and some strength to him. I think he could do some funky things, but he's probably just valuable as an outside cornerback.
Yeah, he's fun.
But yeah, Elijah Molden makes plays on the ball, gets the football, punches the ball out, makes plays, like does everything you want out of that modern defender. So many teams playing a lot in 11, and I don't know that he's on the field more than maybe 50, 60% of snaps, but that's a lot. And I don't know. I'm putting a red star by his name. He's a bang on the table guy for me.
Yeah, I loved him too. He was a guy that I heard you mention a lot, so I was excited to get in and watch him. And just from the preliminary kind of knowledge that I have of watching this position, he was a guy that jumped out to me right away. So I'm glad you touched on him.
He was definitely a leader. You could feel the energy when he made plays.
That Washington defense, man, that's just
always fun.
Fun shit going on there.
Always fun. And it sucks that Joe Tryon didn't play this past year. But
yep, exactly what I was thinking.
So he played in 4 games this year, Elijah Molden. So really, you got to go back to 2019 and made plays, man. 12 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles, 4 picks, and 79 tackles, 5.5 for a loss. And a good blitzer, didn't come up with any sacks, but he's got that twitchiness to him to be able to.
Very nice. Who else we got here?
We got Aaron Robinson, a teammate of Richie Grant at UCF. So 2 guys that have some definite slot ability. Aaron Robinson has that kind of super physical punching, pressing, prodding, late recovery aspect to his game where it's like he is not the fastest cornerback. He is not the most athletic, but he is the most aggressive. He is the most physical. He is the most pestering, annoying, pesky sort of corner that exists out there. He's got the dreads. You love that in the slot. Definitely love that in the slot. But he, he's a man guy. Ball skills, not great. It's kind of like late recovery, throw your hands up, try to, mess with the vision and things like that. Like he's not a turn and make a play on the ball smoothly kind of guy, but really, really, really annoying in man coverage. Had a great Senior Bowl, great press jam. So if you're a press team, you need a nickel. I'm looking at Aaron Robinson.
Cool.
Trill Williams, another one.
What's his name?
Trill Williams.
Do you spell?
Trill Williams.
It's like Trill Withers. Shout out to one of Twitter's greats.
Hell yeah. He played boundary corner early. I believe the last 2 seasons he played slot. He is longer and rangy. He is very explosive. He can play man and zone, but he doesn't have good anticipation. Like he's really good at covering, not great at making plays on the ball again. He had 3 return touchdowns in college, and he's definitely versatile. He definitely can play on the boundary, but having him kind of as like a matchup guy makes a lot of sense. And yeah, he's Trill.
This guy is so Trill. Look at that. He's got the Jamal Adams swag going with the armbands.
He's fun. Guy. Syracuse has had some weird football teams the last couple of years, and he is definitely a big factor in those teams. But he's supposed to be around 6'2", so he's big for the slot, but he is definitely really versatile, and I think is someone that can play in a versatile scheme that uses man and zone, and you're going to find good matchups for him to try and eliminate, and sometimes that might be on the boundary, sometimes that might be in the slot. But he feels like a really scheme-versatile player because he has size, slot versus boundary versatility, and he is man and zone versatile as well.
The money that Banks is going to make off T-shirt sales if they draft that guy is it's through the roof. Trill Williams.
Through the roof.
A Trillion appears to be his full name.
Which is even sicker.
Yeah, it's great.
Instead of Lil Wayne's and Millie.
Yeah, he's trillionaire. He's like a millionaire, but he's a trillionaire.
But yeah, those guys in the slot, those are the guys I really like that weren't really asked to be safeties. They get classified as corner, but in today's NFL, those positionless defenders, and especially if you're talking Baltimore Ravens football, being able to move around and do some different things, wear some different hats. Richie Grant, Holland, Molden, Trill Williams, Aaron Robinson, Elijah. I think I just said Elijah Molden, but all those guys. And then Nezeldine is, whose name I'll never say right. Nezeldine he's like a weird Isaiah Simmons type. He can cover Travis Kelce. That's what we'll go with. If you wanna find someone who has the body type and frame to cover Travis Kelce, that's your guy.
Okay. So a couple names I had that you did not mention are Darius Washington Tcu, right across from our boy Merrick Woodard there. Thought he was intriguing. Have you watched him? Yeah.
He hits, but he's like I said, when like you see them play Texas, like he can't hear. I heard someone, I think it might have been Kyle Krabs at the Draft Network, call him LaMarcus Joyner, and I like that a lot. He's undersized. He does not weigh enough and is not strong enough to hit certain athletes, but he'll sneak people real bad.
Yeah, I think I wrote he kind of feels like Merrick's perfect counterpart in that regard, where he is that hitter. I think my main point that I had on him was that he may strike some teams as a bit too small, but he could be that awesome modern safety who will help somebody out from day one.
He made great plays on the ball. I think he probably jumps 36-inch at least. He has to. He is a springboard, and he makes great plays on the ball. But a guy that, I don't know how comfortable I am with him being someone that I draft in the first round, the second round, and maybe even the third round. So like round 4, you want to take a shot on a guy that could like play some weird special teams and do some weird stuff in your defense and rotate around, but just so freaking small. So freaking small. And size is not a skill. I'm usually the last person to say so small, but there were just times where you knew that he was not strong or big enough to take down certain competition, and that's only going to get worse in the NFL.
Anything on Paris Ford from Pittsburgh?
He ran a 4.9 in his pro day, and everyone's like, you can't ever touch him in your life. But like, I didn't see that on tape. I didn't think he was a 4.9 guy. I don't know. I watched a couple Pittsburgh games, and I did 2 Pittsburgh games, I think, for SIS, and made plays, filled where he was supposed to. He was around in the back end. Like, feels like a solid day 3 safety to me. And everyone's like, oh, well, you can't touch him. He ran a 4.9. It's like, did you see him running a 4.9 on tape? I didn't see him being slower than their middle linebacker. Like, he wasn't as slow. He wasn't slower. Rashad Weaver also ran like a 4.9. He's not slower than him. Yeah,
I liked him. I thought, he made plays on the ball. It kind of felt like he was all over the place on film, and like obviously he's playing for Pittsburgh, so it's like not a massive blue blood program, but they've had some good players there. And I don't know, like I also read up converted corner. So I think his ball skills are pretty good, and he doesn't necessarily strike me as that type of player right away when I started watching him. So I thought that was kind of surprising, kind of cool, made some plays on the ball. I like Paris Ford.
Paris Ford, it's like everybody's taking him. I think he's definitely a split zone guy, or someone who's going to be moving around a little bit, some sub linebacker type stuff. But I mean, he hits for sure too. He's he can set the tone, and he was fine. He was fine. He had like what game was it? I know Clemson, but there's another game where he's just kind of not. He consistently was taking bad angles, but I don't know. A lot of effort, a lot of a fine rotational safety. I think in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and I think that somebody might be pleasantly surprised if he falls because he ran a 4.9 and ends up being a great special teams contributor and a guy that makes plays on 3rd down and can play some sub linebacker and do things like that. I'm not surprised at all.
Okay, so is that all the guys you have?
That's all the guys, I think.
What do you say we do A, B, C, D? Perfect prospects for the Ravens that you guys are going to go ahead and vote on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. Who are your favorite guys from this group that we've mentioned that we're going to now weed down to 4? Who would the first name that you would want to be?
You got to put Morig on there, and he's probably obviously going to win. He's kind of like the consensus free safety guy, so I imagine he probably wins. But
feels like Molden B, right?
Molden, I absolutely love. If there was no Tavon Young in this world, which I beg for Tavon Young's knees to hold up. I pray I would give a little juice out of my own knees if I could.
I don't got much left, but me too.
Yeah, you've only got one good one there, but Molden for sure. And then I guess I don't know. It's like I guess Richie Grant because he can play some single high, and the Ravens are stocked full of everything but like a real single high guy.
Richie Grant.
And then there's like Holland, there's Cisco, like Cisco has an injury. Wiggins has an injury and is another box guy.
You want a little fun fact about Cisco? Cisco actually used to live in that neighborhood back there.
Oh, right. I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
After he balled out off his one hit.
Listen, that's goals. Am I right?
Moved to the old Reisterstown area.
Yeah.
Lay down the law. Get some thotties up in there.
It was a good party house. I actually cut the lawn there for a couple of years.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Probably had a nice yard, nice backyard.
Well, it's funny because he lived there, and then this girl that I went to high school with actually lived there after him. So, listen, just a great legacy in that house.
Fantastic legacy. The Cisco house, the Thong house.
The house that Thong built.
The house that Thong built. The house that Thong bought.
Yeah, actually, that's true. It's a good point.
We need a 4th. Who's the 4th?
Man, there's a lot of guys.
Cisco, Holland.
Let's do Cisco. For the Baltimore connection.
Cisco.
Andre Cisco.
And of course, like Morig, you're going to vote for, but Morig probably is going to be a 1st, 2nd round guy, and Cisco is probably going to be a 2nd, 3rd round guy. So keep that in mind. I mean, would you rather have one of them?
Always got to weigh that value option. I feel like in some of these cases, we're getting people just voting on the best prospect. You got to consider the value there.
It makes sense, but vote how you want.
It does make sense. Listen, don't tell me how to use your vote. I would not be a person to grandstand and tell you what to do. However, I'm just saying, consider all the angles.
That's why I like the series that the Draft Network does. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like Isaiah Simmons in the first or Jeremy Chin in the third. Like, things like that where it's like, who is going to ultimately be better value?
Maybe I need to do a better job when I put the poll out of like putting value out there.
So we could assign value to each player where we could put where we think they'll go or where they are projected to go overall. So it would be Morig would be a first-round guy, Grant and Molden. I would draft Molden in the first round, I think.
How many NFL GMs do you think share that opinion?
2, like maybe 2.
Okay, so not many.
Like Honey Badger should have gone in the first round. Everyone knew that. That was a classic NFL overthinking itself case.
That draft was so bad too.
It was really bad, and he had like the weed issues. God fucking forbid. But that was ridiculous, and I can just see Molden being like pick 67 and then immediately starting and being like, and then there's like a bunch of scrubs in the first round, like half of them are below average, whatever. And it's like, why is Elijah Molden, this guy that everyone knew is a fantastic slot corner, not getting picked in the first round? And there's no reasonable answer, but we'll give him second round.
Okay.
Like I don't think you can tell me there are 15 better defenders in this draft. Like or 16. If you split the first round, let's say it would somehow ended up 16 and 16, there are not 16 better defensive players in this draft than Elijah Molden. I will tell you that right now.
Interesting. I'm gonna Photoshop that into like a card and like tweet that out like Colin Cowherd does. It's like, this is our hot take for the day.
That is my hot take. That's my guy. That's someone I'm standing on the table for that I want on my defense. And there are not 16 better defenders.
Listen, I'm telling you about economics in the free market, and I'm telling you that you need to focus on this guy Elijah Molden. Joy Taylor going to be joining us here in a couple minutes to discuss why he is not as good or better than most of the other defenders in this draft.
We'll get to talking about it a little bit after the break.
That was actually really good. So I got Morig round 1, him round 2. We got Richie Grant and our boy Cisco left.
Richie Grant put 2 to 3. Round 2, round 3. And Cisco put 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Round 3 to 4.
Okay.
We'll start breaking them down like that a little bit more. The first couple I think we could live with going the way that they did.
Yeah, I think
so we have Tryon. Like we could have put Tryon would be like second, third round probably.
He was a guy who, I threw him out there. He didn't get a ton of votes, but there were a couple comments like, this guy's a fucking beast. Like
he fits like that. Circling back to that, he fits. The Ravens are unique in the sense of edges. I think I was just talking about this with someone on Twitter today. They like guys who play in space really well overall, that can blitz like a freight train at any position, explosive blitzers, and that can run, chase, and fill space. Like Tryon is going to be able to run and fill areas for you. And that's why Jason Awa's freaking 4.3 today that he ran at his pro day is bullshit, because Joe Tryon is faster than Jason Awa on a football field. I've seen it and I know it for a fact. Like when you watched Awa, did you think he was a 4.3 guy? I remember you watched him a little bit.
Yeah, no, he was fast. Like he was chasing guys down. It was kind of surprising, honestly. Like I got some weird tapes of him too. Like I'm not sure where you were getting your stuff from, but I'm just doing the thing where you look him up on YouTube and like a couple grainy footage type things. You get those sometime, and like it was kind of a tough watch otherwise. But there were definitely plays I noticed where I was like, dude, this guy can fly.
But I feel like Joe Tryon flies as well. I feel like he flies around a football field. But I don't know. Well, I'll go. I need to go back and watch Awa again.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so we'll start trying to assign some value of just to make it a little more interesting, and that way it gives you some further perspective.
Just a little more context.
But overall, Ravens defense right now, and I think maybe we could put a little bit more purple glasses on when we're talking about these guys, but it's like they have boundary corners, they have Tavon Young, they have Clark and Elliott, and of course Geno Stone back, the Stone Wall, the Stoner,
the Stone Man.
The Stone Man, who we all loved and everybody loved as a late round pick last year, but Merrick is going to be, he's going to be that post guy, and I feel like he fits quite well. But then again, Richie Grant.
There are two guys coming out of each group here. So
it's true.
Merrick's probably going to take that top spot, but
Richie Grant has the man coverage. Ravens end up blitzing a lot, playing a lot of man. And he would be a valuable piece that I think has some range. I didn't get to watch enough safeties overall. I'm not done with my safeties yet.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not done with any of them yet.
It's a really, really deep class as far as they go. Because you were mentioning guys that I hadn't heard of. I think I brought up a few that you didn't mention. So I think the fact that we kind of converged in that way was probably good content.
It was good content. But we'll be circling back. Hopefully we'll try to make we'll probably do at least 2 episodes leading up to the draft that week. And we're going to try and do our final bracket and stuff. But let's do we need a corrections episode where we can have some time to marinate some guys and pause and go back and try to look and figure out things we might not have seen or that we like differently and come to more consensus on. We'll have that be definitely at least part of an episode, if not an episode leading up to the draft.
Yeah, kind of a director's commentary type thing.
Very excited for this draft. The draft is my favorite time of the year.
This is the best time of the year for sports, in my opinion.
Yes.
March Madness, I mean, NFL Combine is kind of my usual start to it. Didn't happen this year. That's fine. The draft is going on. March Madness, the Masters.
Being robbed of the Combine really does suck.
It does suck. It does suck. You got March Madness, the NFL Draft, the Masters, the Preakness, baseball, NFL Draft. It's the best sports time of the year is the spring.
And it's all all of it's starting out. Formula One.
Formula One is coming back. That's something that we're getting into.
What's the Grand Prix this weekend?
I think it's in Bahrain.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Jake finally got me hip to the series on Netflix. Definitely a fun watch, and I've been playing the game on my phone actually quite a bit and getting way too mad again.
I got to get you.
I have an issue with cell phone video games.
I've seen that game. I haven't tried it out. I'm addicted to the Xbox game though. It's one of the best sports games I've ever played. But yeah.
There we go. We've devolved a little bit, but yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that in the next hour here too, as I debut my Gunther Steiner impression. Gene, we just fucked this one up.
Toto Wolff.
We just fucked this one up.
I don't get nervous on qualifying days.
Fuck you. Who's your second driver? Fuck you. I don't know if you've seen season 3 yet.
Toto's I finished.
Yeah.
I went through.
Yeah.
Because I usually put on a show while I'm watching film too, because I'm
Yeah.
that type of person. And but he's freaking, now I can't think of his name. The other Mercedes driver.
Valtteri Bottas.
Valtteri might be my favorite driver.
He's funny.
He might be my favorite driver.
It's always a good time.
His agent in the sauna, just like
that was you could cut the sexual tension with a fucking
no sexual
knife.
Tension. That was just manhood. That was just them being like, oh yeah, we're going to go on camera for Netflix and let them know like we get naked together and it's cool.
Yeah,
it's completely normal in Finland.
Finland, what an interesting place, man. What an interesting place. But
I also love him secretly, like drafting fucking Max.
To like get the third place.
Yes, yeah, that was so sick.
It's always just like the little politics of it that like you don't consider. It's funny, but yeah, we'll talk about that in the next hour.
Okay, we'll get into that on the other side.
Absolutely, but
vote on the poll, vote on that coming on. So we'll have offensive line done, we'll have tight ends done, we'll have edges done, and you'll be looking at the safety / nickel rankings right there with our boys. So vote on those bad boys. Give us feedback, what you like, what you don't like, recommendations you might have. Hit us with those 5 stars for sure in the iTunes. Get us buzzing. The boys are almost at 200 5-star reviews. We appreciate our listeners. We love you guys.
We absolutely do. You can find that poll at Podcast Beatdown on Twitter. Follow the main account at BeMoreBeatdown. I am at Jake Luke. That is LOUQUE. And you can follow Spencer at Ravens for Dummies. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Tune in next week for the next one. And also stay tuned for our traditional episodes that are coming out later in the week. Until then, we will talk to you guys later.
See you.
Arrivederci.
Gorlami.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.